What I've got here is an Atari 2600 that has Etim's new 2600 RGB mod kit installed, obviously to get RGB out of the console amongst other things. The Atari 2600 only natively produces RF output. It's pretty low quality and it's a bit more difficult these days to find a television that will accept the signal, and so it gives you an option with RGB on connecting up to modern displays. So right now the mod is functional, it's installed, it's not tidied up. I haven't got the actual sockets, output sockets, the picture and sound sockets there mounted into the panels of the console, but for the sake of the video I just want to show you that it is functional and show you a bit more detail on how it all works. So it's a lot like the Nesrgb kit. I've just pulled out the 2600 RGB board. It takes a chip out of the 2600, the graphics chip here, and incorporates itself into the board. In this model of 2600, which is one of the 4-switch 2600s, one of the older ones, the chips on the motherboard are all in sockets. They're not soldered in directly, so it makes for the job, makes for an easier job, that the chip can be just pulled out of the motherboard, unlike say the NES where you've got to desolder the chip. I'd say that this RGB mod job is a bit easier than the NES for that reason, and also because there's quite a bit of space inside the 2600's case to mount the sockets, so there's a bit more room to work with. It's a little bit easier. So the board, obviously that's the big graphics chip from the 2600. That's in a socket itself as well, so you can remove that at any stage if you want to. There's a row of pins along here that output the video signals and the sound signals. RGB, Svideo and composite, 5 volts, and there's also a provision here for a switch to be installed that will actually pause the 2600 console. Haven't installed that just yet, I will though at the end of the video. There are 5 little holes there that you can see next to my fingernail that I'm tapping with there. You can install the component video mod board that is also available to use, the same board on the Nesrgb mod kit. That's if you want to get component video. You have to buy that in addition to this board to do it, but again that's a nice provision, same as the NES one. Over here is something else altogether. This is optional, you don't have to install this here to get RGB by any means, but this actually gives your joystick in your Atari 2600 the extra ability to reset and select, rather than having to use the reset and select switches here on the console. You can still use those, but with this setup you can actually activate reset and select from your joystick, and you can also change palette color as well, and I'll go into a bit more detail about that. And speaking of color palettes, this chip here, little EEPROM, actually stores the data for the different palettes. There's 6 palettes on the chip, 3 for PAL and 3 for NTSC. This board detects what console it's in, whether it's a PAL or NTSC, and uses the 3 respective colors. That can be reprogrammed if you want to put your own custom palettes in. There's a little surface mount LED there that flashes when the board is turned on, when the console's turned on, and it flashes once for NTSC and twice for PAL. That's pretty much the board's functions. It's quite a bit. As far as installing it into the board's concerned, you may need to lay down several components on the board. You may need to do a little bit of work there to get clearance for this board. I've actually just put in a few sockets there as well to boost up the height. It may restrict the actual metal shielding going back on, but I'm not concerned about that right now. I just want to show the functionality of it all. There's a couple of wires going to the reset and select there, and on the back here there's several wires going to the controller port 1 to gain that extra functionality like reset, select and palette selection. They all head back again, as I showed you before, to this little area just here, and again same mini DIN socket. This is the one for RGB as used in the Nesrgb kit, and audio is 3.5mm headphone socket. You can use the SCART cable that is used for the Nesrgb kit as well, so it's good that they're cross-compatible like that. It's a good idea, it's good thinking from Etim to make them compatible across the board. So without further ado, I'll now sit this back in the 2600 shell and turn it on, and we'll see how it goes. One other thing I should mention also, this is part of the kit. This is a new regulator that's been put in here. Instead of the old voltage regulator, you've got a much more sophisticated setup. That's part of the kit, and that's probably just to supply adequate power to the RGB board as well. That's not too difficult to install. One thing to be mindful of is the fact that the power jack for the 2600 is like a headphone plug one. It'll actually fit into the socket of the audio socket. I wouldn't do that regardless of what safeguard may or may not be present, but just keep that in mind, that your power plug goes into the power socket and not the newly made headphone port that you've installed there. This SCART cable here is Etim SCART cable that he sells. It carries the audio and the video on separate lines, so you will find that your audio should be quite clear like that. You won't get the buzzing sound as you would on a very white screen, bright white screen. You can sometimes hear that audio buzz in your SCART television. The LED there sticking out where the cable would normally plug in is your 5-volt indicator, so that should turn on when everything's going. So it's all plugged in. It's plugged in at the Atari's end. Power's in, so I'll just get a game and turn it on. Now, I don't have an Atari 2600 joystick, but I do have an Atari 7800 control pad, and this works equally as well as the 2600 joystick. I've got the extra function button just dangling. I don't want to install it into the plastic at this stage. So basically what happens is when you press this button, it activates both left and right at the same time. Now that's not normally possible, and the Atari doesn't recognise it. But the RGB board does recognise it, and this enables you to use the extra function. So I'll turn the Atari on. It's in good old RGB right now. The game's Sports Action. It's a 4-in-1. It's got 4 different games. So I'll go to Enduro. Right, so if I want to change colours, the palettes, I'm holding this extra button and pushing the fire button. You can see that one's darker, but you've got your 3 different palettes to choose from. If I want to start the game, you've got to press reset, so I'll do it here. Hold the button and push up. No, it might be down actually, down. Right. So the game started. Again, if I want to reset, there's your reset. I'll actually change games. Go to Dragster. And now just figure out what's what here. Right, so that's select. I'm holding that extra button and pushing up, and you can see the number on the screen going from 1 to 2. I assume that's 1 and 2 players. And I can push reset to start it. I don't know how you play it, but anyway. Oh, here we go. Anyway, that's it. That's it, working in a nutshell there. It looks great. Another good piece of work from Etim. And I think maybe just for the last thing, I'll put that momentary switch. I'll put that switch onto the 2 wires here I've got ready for it. See what we can do with that. So I've installed that little switch that was dangling from the control pad before. I've soldered it in pretty much directly to the RGB board. Now this can function as a pause button, but for some reason it's not working, the pause function. But it also does some other things, and one of them is palette switching, like we've seen. So I'll turn it on. I've got Spider-Man in there now this time. So normally you just give it a brief tap and the game would pause and the screen should go blank, because the pause mechanism works by pausing the CPU itself, so you wouldn't get any picture at all. But as it is, it's just giving us palette swapping. As you can see, the LED on the board flashes when you've got the palette swapping going as such. Anyhow, that's pretty much the mod. It's another good one by Tim, another console that's been conquered by him for RGB. If you'd like to get this installed into your Atari 2600, you can send me a message and we can probably work something out. Just send me a message via YouTube. Check out the links in the description for Etim's website and kits and instructions and so forth like that. Stay tuned to my channel. I've got more videos of monitors and various CRTs coming up. Plenty more stuff in the pipeline. So just keep watching. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.